In a serene valley, nestled among the bamboo hills of ancient China, lived an old farmer. His name was Li, but everyone in the village simply called him the Old Man. It wasn't out of disrespect, but rather deep admiration for his quiet wisdom. Li was a simple man with few possessions, a small piece of farmland, a modest hut, and the company of his only son, a strong and loyal young man. What set him apart from others was his unwavering attitude toward life. When something good happened, he didn't celebrate with euphoria. When something bad struck, he didn't fall into despair. To him, every event was just a point on a line stretching infinitely. His thin lips, wrinkled by time, would whisper the same response to everything. Maybe. One morning, the peace of the valley was broken by terrible news. The farmer's only horse, a strong stallion with a shiny coat, had escaped during the night. The fence, which had seemed so solid, had collapsed in a sudden storm, and the frightened animal had fled into the distant hills. Neighbors, moved by genuine compassion, came to console Li. "Oh, old Li, what great misfortune!" one exclaimed, hands clasped to his chest. "How will you plant your crops now? This is a terrible setback for your family." Li's son, sitting by the doorway, looked devastated. "Father, our horse. How will we manage without him?" The old farmer, however, kept watering his plants. He looked at his neighbor with a calm smile, and at his son with eyes of infinite understanding. "Misfortune?" he pondered aloud, his voice as soft as the breeze. "Maybe. The horse is gone, yes. But he is alive, running freely out there. How can we know what this means in the grand scheme of things? Maybe it's a misfortune, or maybe not." The neighbors, expecting Li to be grieving, were surprised and puzzled by his calmness, but left murmuring among themselves about the old man's strange philosophy. His son didn't fully understand either, but his father's serenity reassured him, even under the weight of loss. Life went on, harder now without the horse to help with farming, and Li's son worked twice as hard to make up for it. Weeks later, after a night of heavy rain, a glorious morning revealed an astonishing sight. Li's son went out to the field and froze. Coming down the hill toward the farm was their runaway horse. But he was not alone. Behind him trotted a dozen wild horses, drawn by the presence of the familiar stallion. The lost horse had returned, bringing with him an unexpected wealth. The son ran to his father, breathless, eyes filled with tears of joy. "Father, father, our horse is back!" And he brought 12 wild horses. "What incredible fortune! The whole village is talking about our miracle." Neighbors, who had once pitied their loss, now gathered in front of the hut, clapping and celebrating. "Li, you were right. It was the greatest misfortune that brought the greatest fortune. Now you have a treasure no one in the village can match." The old farmer, however, remained tranquil. He stroked the neck of his stallion and watched the wild horses, still restless and wary. He smiled, but not with euphoria. "Fortune?" he said with the same quietness in his voice. "Maybe. The horse came back, yes, and brought others. But how can we know what this means? Maybe it's fortune, or maybe not." Li's son and the neighbors found his answer perplexing, but soon forgot it amid the excitement of having so many animals. The farm prospered like never before. The wild horses were tamed, and Li's family now had more horses than they had ever dreamed of. Their wealth became a source of admiration and envy across the village. Encouraged by this abundance, Li's son tried to tame the most beautiful and untamed of them all, a stallion with a coat as dark as night. The animal resisted fiercely. In one sudden move, the stallion kicked, and Li's son was thrown violently to the ground. He landed with a dull thud, his scream of pain echoing through the field. The village doctor's verdict was grim. His leg was broken, and recovery would be long and painful. News spread like wildfire. The same neighbors who had celebrated their fortune now returned with sorrowful expressions. "Oh, old Lee, what a terrible tragedy! Such fortune turning into such misfortune! Your son, your only hope, is now injured and unable to work. This is the price of greed." Lee's son, lying on his straw bed, felt the excruciating pain in his leg and the weight of disappointment. "Father, maybe they're right. If the horse hadn't come back, I wouldn't have tried to tame it, and I wouldn't be in this situation." But the old man was preparing a compress for his son's leg. His expression was pure compassion, not despair. "Tragedy?" he said. "Maybe. The leg is broken, yes. But he is alive, and he has time to heal. How can we know what this means? Maybe it's a tragedy, or maybe not." His son fell silent, intrigued by his father's serenity. Life grew harder again, with Lee taking on most of the farm work, tending crops, caring for the horses, and looking after his son. A few weeks later, the Empire issued a decree. The nation was at war, and the army needed new soldiers. The Emperor's officers, stern men in heavy armor, arrived in the village. They inspected every young man, searching for the strongest and healthiest to send to the battlefield. The whole village panicked. Mothers wept. Fathers trembled in fear. Those chosen had no certainty of ever returning home. When the officers reached Lee's hut, they found his son lying in bed, his leg bandaged and his face pale. They inspected him quickly, shook their heads, and dismissed him. One soldier muttered, "What a pity! The boy is crippled, useless for battle." Lee's son watched his friends and neighbors being taken away, many with tears streaming down their faces. He, however, was spared because of his broken leg. When the military procession left the village, a wave of relief washed over the people. The neighbors returned to Lee's hut, this time with eyes of deep reverence. They saw Lee's son, safe and sound, and they understood. "Lee, you were right every time," one neighbor exclaimed. "Our sorrow over your son's injury was foolish. It was the greatest fortune. His broken leg saved him from war. What seemed like tragedy was, in truth, a blessing in disguise." Lee's son looked at his father, and for the first time, truly understood the depth of his wisdom. He smiled, a smile of relief, humility, and newfound understanding of life. The old farmer, sitting on a small stool outside his home, gazed at the landscape. He turned to the neighbor with a gentle smile and said, in his serene and familiar voice, "A blessing? Maybe. He is safe, yes, but the war still goes on. And who can say what the future holds? Maybe it's a blessing, or maybe not." And at that moment, the entire village and his son understood the true lesson. Life is not a series of isolated events, but a complex tapestry where each thread connects to the next. What seems like fortune today may lead to sorrow tomorrow, and what feels like misfortune now may be what saves you from something far worse in the future. The farmer's humility did not lie in predicting the future, but in accepting the present without judgment, knowing that the perspective of time can change everything. His philosophy was a reminder that the only truth we have is the present moment, and that wisdom resides in facing it with patience and an open heart, always, in every situation, with the most honest answer of all, maybe.